Hello, everyone. So today I'm going to teach you how to create the Vedic Grid within numerology. And this is so important because it's going to be the foundation for how to make predictions in your life, as well as understanding the personality, strengths, and weaknesses of someone. So the Vedic Grid is what really separates Vedic numerology from the more mainstream system of numerology, which is the Pythagorean system, because we don't use solar numbers or master numbers within the Vedic system. We see how the numbers, because they each correspond to a planet, we see how they're interacting with one another, and that's how we analyze a person's life. And so just remember that Vedic numerology is the Indian system numerology with its roots in the ancient Vedas. So I'm going to show you now how to get an example date of birth into the grid so that you can learn to do this for yourself. And then also, if this is something you're into, save the video for later, because I'm going to be putting up a couple of times a week now how to analyze different numbers within your date of birth and what they're doing within the grid. And then let's get started. Let's get this example date of birth into the grid. So we're looking at the month of June. So that's the number 6. So the 6 is going to go here. Always follow this pattern when you're putting your numbers in. And then the 18th, we're going to put the 1 here and then the 8 here. Now, if you have a double digit for the day of the month you're born on, you're going to want to add that up and put it into the grid as well. So 1 plus 8 becomes 9. Put that in the grid. Now, if you're born on the 1st through the 9th, that number only goes in once. And then if you were born on the 10th, 20th, or 30th of any month, don't re-add that number and put it in again, right? You're just going to put it in once. And then also remember, if you're born on the 11th or the 22nd, we don't consider that to be a master number within the Vedic system. And so if you're born on the 11th, you're going to put in 2 1s and then add it together in a 2. And if you're born on the 22nd, you're going to put in 2 2s, add it together and do a 4. Don't somehow bring in the master numbers because you're not going to be able to read your grid correctly. Okay, so then let's go on to the year. We don't take the first 2 numbers of any year because that's just going to be too general and it's not going to be specific enough to really understand a person. So we never use the first 2 numbers. We only look at the last 2. So this person was born in 93. So we add in another 9 and then a 3. And then a note on zeros anywhere within your date of birth, whether it's the month, the day, or the year. Never add a 0 in because 0 doesn't have a place in the grid. It's the void and it's nothingness. And so if you're born in 2001, you're only going to put 1 1 in your grid from the year. Conversely, if you're born, say, in October, you're only going to put a 1 in for the month of October. The final piece of the grid is the destiny number. Now, within the Vedic system, we call it the destiny number, but it's the same as the life path number. And so I use them interchangeably because I know people are used to the word life path, but it's the destiny number. So this person's destiny number would be a 1. And so we put that into the grid. I always circle it just so I can, really make it stand out. And so essentially what you do is you add up all the numbers. It becomes a 37. And then adding those 2 together becomes a 10, and then it's reduced down to a 1. And remember, we never use the master numbers 11, 22, and 33. And so if all of the numbers in your date of birth add up to one of those, add them again and put them into the grid because we have a very different way of looking at what they're doing in a person's life. So this is the grid created for this person's date of birth. And think of this as a way to see how the planets are interacting, right? Because every number is represented by a planet because the numbers are just energetic vibrations of what the planets are doing at the time we took birth. And so this is used to see conjunctions, oppositions, squares. See this 319, this is known as a yoga because anyone with a 319 has a very specific way about them that we can see through the Vedic grid. Oh, I also forgot to mention, I am going to be putting up some classes really soon on my website that's going to go into more detail about the Vedic grid. You can ask me questions. I'm also going to be putting up classes on relationship compatibility as well as timing of events like getting married or, starting a new business. So those will be up soon. Just check out my website. It's brooknumerology.com. Okay, so then going back to the grid. So the way that we assess a grid is really by understanding how the numbers are interacting with one another, as well as noting if they are in positive or negative. And what I mean by that is depending on the amount of numbers you have, it's either going to be a positive influence or a negative influence, and it means something very specific, right? Because think about it, sometimes people are a destiny number 9, a life path 9, right? And they are not kind, right? They're not being a humanitarian, they're not spiritual, and that's because the number is not operating well within their grid. That's how we can tell that. Or people that, have number 5 prominent in their date of birth, the 5 isn't operating well and they're not able to bring in money or be good at business. We can see this from the grid. So I'll go over really quickly which numbers are negative, which numbers are positive, but just know I will be putting up subsequent videos that really goes into detail about this. Okay, the number 1 rule by the sun. More than 1 is negative. We'll talk about later in other videos why. Number 2, more than 2 is known as negative 2. Number 3 rule by Jupiter, more than 3 is known as negative 3. Number 4, when number 4 is in odds, so 1 4, 3 4s, 5 4s, that is known as negative 4. And when the number 4 is in even, so 2 4 6, that is positive. Number 5, more than 5 is negative. Number 6, more than 6 is negative. And especially with 6, the more 6s you have, the more problems there are. It can be very challenging to have multiple 6s. Number 7, more than 7 is known as negative 7. And then the number 8, when you have 8s in an odd amount, that is known as negative 8. And when you have 8s within your grid in an even amount, that's known as positive 8. And the number 9, more than 9 is known as negative 9. So this is essentially the foundation for how you create the Vedic grid. And then from there, you can assess the numbers. Because for instance, having 2 1s, no 7, and an 8 is going to be fundamentally different from having 1 1, no 7, and an 8. And this is also why, people with the same destiny number or life path number can be completely different. It's because what the other numbers are doing within the grid. And then a more advanced technique, once, we've built a solid foundation here, is to then look at the dashas. Those are the time periods we run. There's a calculation for them. And then we put them into the grid. And that's how we make predictions about a person's life. And so let me know if you have questions, but I will be putting out multiple videos weekly on this because someone that has 1 3 and a 6 is going to be fundamentally different than someone that has 1 3 and 2 6s or 3 6s. It just creates a different person. And this is why, Vedic numerology is so accurate, because we're not just looking at, numbers added together from a date of birth. We're going deep into how they're interacting with one another in the grid. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.